So, welcome to this is a half-day retreat, and what I thought we would do is divide it into three sections, and because I'm a monologuist, I will talk for a while, and then everyone has a pink page and a pencil because I'm going to have you write some things down a little bit. And then I'm going to ask you to discuss some things with each other. And pretty much that will take up most of our time. We are just moving into 2018. And 2018 is a year of, I think it's going to be a very challenging year. So 2017 was quite challenging, but I think 2018 will be more challenging. And of course, the best thing for us in challenging times is to have a very good stage, very good yoga. So although the title of this half-day retreat is How to Be an Easy Yogi, I don't think it's all that easy. What I wanted to look at is how to approach yoga in a methodical, structured, focused sort of a way. And I wanted to take 4 words which of course were there in today's Murli. I suppose everyone must have heard today's Murli. And it was really focusing on the idea that the purpose of Shiv Baba coming to the earth to talk to us is so that we can understand about purity, and that he is the purifier, and that unless we have contact with him, it is not possible to achieve purity. And the way to achieve purity is yoga. And so I want us to take a look at some very, very basic things, because although they're very basic, they're still very subtle, and they are key and crucial to what we're doing and why we're here. So the first word is, of course, Atma, I, the self, the soul. And the second is Baba. And the third is Drama. And the fourth is Sanskaras, because these are really what we have to deal with. And in today's Murli, Baba was very much emphasizing that this is a predestined drama. That means that everything is predestined, including your thoughts and your feelings and the cracks in the walls, and each and every little thing is predestined. And many people have a problem with this because they say, how can it be like that? And Baba says it's not only predestined, but it's an identical repetition each and every cycle. And people generally consider this point as whether or not it's factual. And so if a person says, oh, I don't think it's factual, then they will not be able to use the knowledge of drama. So I think that it is more useful to consider all these points not as facts, but as yantras. You know this word yantra, mantra. A mantra is a suggestion, and a yantra is an instrument. So the knowledge that we're studying is a machine, and we need to understand the machine because it is a machine. Although it comes in the form of words on a piece of paper, it's nevertheless a machine. And it is a machine that spins. So, a machine that spins will... the knowledge of drama. So the most common machine of this nature that we're all familiar with is a bicycle. And everybody knows to ride a bicycle, yeah? And riding a bicycle involves making sure that it's moving, because if you stand on a bicycle which is not moving, it will fall over. Correct? So the importance of this machine is to keep it moving. It's a gyroscope. And the function of a gyroscope is balance. And the other example that we have of this is the spinning top. So you know how a spinning top goes. And you also know that the top will spin on a little needle point. And so part of the functioning of this instrument is to go from the needle point to the periphery and back again in a rhythmic manner. So you go from the dot to the expansion to the dot to the expansion. And your bicycle also, it's got a big wheel and it's on the axle, and then you can ride it. So the soul is a dot, Baba is a dot, drama is a dot. So we have dots and wheels, and this is the instrument. And then there is the question of degradation of the soul. And so Baba has told us that you have no choice. You have to go from gold to silver to copper to iron. And there is no way out. So Baba gives us information which is contradictory to conventional wisdom, in the sense that most people believe that we are evolving, yes? Whether it's from a Darwinian angle or any other angle, the idea is that, you get better and better. And if you would know that all you're doing is getting worse and worse, then you'd just give up. Even from the Golden Age, the deities would say, well, I'm just going back to Paramdam, I'm not going to do this. And so Baba keeps it absolutely secret until the very, very end, which is the confluence age, which is the diamond age. And the diamond age is very important part of the knowledge of drama, because this is the time when the knowledge of drama is accessible. So you have the diamond age, you have Shiv Baba, you have the knowledge of the drama, and the soul remembers, because Baba keeps reminding us all the time, remembers, I'm a soul. It's very, very difficult to remember that you're a soul, because every time you look in the mirror, you don't see it. And body consciousness is very easy to describe, but to actually make oneself soul conscious, it's actually very tricky. So we need to use this instrument to get us to be soul conscious. We have to become a dot. And so the most important part of Raj Yoga practice is the technique of concentration. And it's very, very difficult for people to be concentrated. You'll see in any gathering of BKs, everybody's sitting there looking towards Chief Baba's picture or Brahma Baba's picture, and as soon as anything happens or anyone comes in, you turn your head to see what it was. And that means that there is no concentration. And so how do we become concentrated? First thing is we have to deactivate the feeling that we need to know what's going on all around. And so that's a choice, it's a conscious choice. If you're driving the car, you need to know what's going on all around, because otherwise there will be a real problem. But when you're in the room, unless there's some sort of major catastrophe, usually what happens is the music goes too loud or too soft, or someone comes in, or somebody breaks something in the distance, or nothing that we really actually need to shift our attention to. So what Baba's asking us to do is to practice in circumstances of adversity to be concentrated as a non-physical being upon a non-physical being via the maximum possible distractions. So obviously that's not an easy thing. So though we call it Easy Raj Yoga, I think it's probably Baba's advertising campaign to get us to think that this is easy. But sometimes he says it's not that easy. I think mostly it's not easy because it's subtle. And we generally are in gross consciousness. And so we first of all have to become detached from matter. And so in the early period of the BKs, the practice Baba used to give the brothers and sisters to do is to practice doing some simple action in the awareness that I, the soul, am, cutting this tomato through my body. To make it very, very firm that I'm the soul and the body is not me, and the action I am doing through this body. And I don't think very many people do this practice, but it's a good practice to do, and there are many things that we do which are entirely boring. But when you do boring activities or repetitive activities, it's ideal for this practice of I, the soul, and doing this simple action through this body, and you can shift yourself into the non-material dimension in that way. So this is a really highly recommended practice to do, because it's going to help you when you want to do the more advanced practices of Raj Yoga. And it's very simple, but it's subtle. And the most important thing for us is to get ourselves to become subtle. And yet we are all the time surrounded by things and people and circumstances that want us to be gross. And part of that is cultural. And when we talk about, Baba says, the religion of the soul is peace, you see. And when you hear this word religion, if you're listening to it in English, Well, it doesn't make you subtle at all, because religions are all gross, aren't they? Buildings, rituals, objects, these things. If you look up the word dharma on any kind of site which goes into the meanings of words, dharma has quite a lot of meanings, and one of them is religion, but there are other meanings as well. And one meaning that I think is quite good when you say the original dharma of the soul is peace. In order to practice that idea, in order to go to the point, you have to really think what is original. Because Baba says you have your perfect stage, your original stage, and your current stage. These are the three possibilities. So how we are at the moment is not very far advanced on the whole, I would say, if we don't mind. Because this is difficult, you see, and there's no other people except us who are doing it. So whether it's difficult or easy, he has designated us simple people as the ones. So we have to do it whether we like it or not, do you think? There's nobody else, There are no alternative BKs. We are it. So we have to do this. So our present stage is not that great. It's not bad in comparison with people who are really bad, but in comparison with where we want to go, it's not really so good. Especially if we think destruction is next week. It isn't, but he keeps saying, it's very soon. So, and your original stage is what it was like to be me before anything ever happened. You see? So our present stage is the way it is because of what has happened, and we've declined and we've degraded and we've been affected by this and that. So we became ordinary, we became gross, and we're just basic humans in the human condition with various accumulated sins. And Baba has said in the Murli today that we are the people who have maximum happiness and maximum sorrow, so I hope you don't mind. We have to think that it's okay to have maximum sorrow. No problem. Because then you can apply this idea of drama. It's predestined. I, the perfectly innocent person, will have the maximum sorrow, not because I did the maximum sins, but because I'm old. Old soul, I've been here 84 births, and so I qualify for the maximum sorrow. So it's nothing to do with feeling guilty, because you can't feel guilty about being a deity soul, can you? So what I mean to say is we have to undo some of the training that we have had, some of the culturation that we have had, that only people who do bad things get sorrow. It's a very superficial understanding of karma. And now we have to add to that, we have exceptions, except that the oldest of the old souls are destined to have the maximum amount of sorrow and the maximum amount of happiness. So then he asks us questions. He says, do you want this? Maximum happiness? Yes. Why not? Maximum happiness? Okay, then the price is maximum sorrow. And you don't say, well, it's a difficult one, It's a deal. He says, I'm offering you truth at any cost. We say, yes, I want truth at any cost. The cost is very high. So then he says, okay, I'll give you powers. like power to endure, power to tolerate, power to manage, all this maximum sorrow, right? So then if we are good yogis with maximum virtues, maximum powers, then it's okay to have maximum sorrow because we can manage it, yes? It doesn't matter. So then you start to really think, I must be someone. We look like nobody in particular, right? Just basic humans, yeah? But inside this ordinary costume, there is a extremely unusual and very special being who has forgotten itself. I don't know if we're a he or a she or an it. You see. Because Baba said in the Murli today, all souls are brothers, so they're all hims, so there are no hers. Right? You could be, like in the yesterday's Murli, you could be a male soul in a female costume. That's still okay. He wants souls to be male purely and simply for legal reasons, so that you can lay your full claim to the inheritance. So it's not only biological aspect, but it's to do with laying claim to your rights. So part of yoga is the idea that I have rights and to claim them. Because in devotion, in bhakti, there isn't so much this idea that I have rights. Am I right? That's what I'm picking up. Bhakti. You don't think I have rights, God, give me this and give me that. It's more like you come as a beggar sometimes. He says, please give me this and please give me that, but not somebody who has rights. So he wants us to be very subtle, conscious of ourselves as genderless, but not it, because the soul is not a thing, it's a being. You see. And we have been trained to be gender conscious, race conscious, class conscious, color conscious, education conscious, wealth conscious, the whole thing, because it's all stratified. And then Baba says, and guess what? Souls are also number-wise. So then you have to think, okay, which number of soul am I? See, because you could be anywhere from number 2, because number 1's already taken, number 2 to number 8 billion or so. But he says it's okay, you're at least in the top 900,000, so that's not bad, right? Everybody here is one up to that level. So that it means that we are in the top, who's a mathematician around here, point a number of zeros, 1 of the world's population. That's very special, no? And so he talks to us about our swaman. Swaman is generally translated into English as self-respect, but I don't agree with that. I think it's better to think it's your self-honor. And honor is man also, is it, it's your dignity. It's really, this very, very deep and difficult question, do you know who you are? You see? And of course the answer is no. Don't know who you are. So Shiv Baba tells us all sorts of things to get us, to trick us into, getting at least a faint glimpse of not being who we have thought we are. You see? Because how do you get your sense of identity? Usually he says you get it from your Lokik father. Right? And in India, if ever you have to fill in a form, they always want to know who your Lokik father is. And when I first started filling in Indian forms, I said, there's nothing to do with anything, you took it to me, not him. This is me. But no, they said, no, your identity is via your father. I said, no, it's really not. But then Shi Baba says, it's okay, he is not your father, he's just one more brother. I'm your father. So, now, he is a non-human, right? He's a non-human. He says, Brahma Baba's my wife, so that's your mother. He's an angel. So you have a non-human father and an angel for a mother, so what are you? Something different, right? See? So we've heard it a few times, we get it for a second or two, and then we forget it. So we have to deal with this phenomenon of, loss of consciousness, loss of memory. And there is something, this word satyanash, this word satyanash, which comes in the Gita, which is kind of the ultimate consequence of all the vices, is that the truth is destroyed. So he comes along and says, I am the truth. I am putting back the destroyed truth into you. So when we are having yoga, we have to process all these thoughts, and we have to think about it in a circular manner. So this yantra that I'm talking about, this soul, bhava, drama, and sanskaras, is a whirling type of thing. It's a circulating thing. And this circulating thing is circulating the force of positivity and the force of negativity together. You know how a DNA thing looks, right? Like a couple of snakes going around each other. Or you know how a caduceus looks. You know the caduceus, the sign of the medicine? You have a stick with a round thing on top, a couple of wings, and some snakes coming up. And this is a symbol of healing, you see. And to me, this is a very good symbol for Raj Yoga, because what we're doing is causing things that are deeply forgotten about ourselves to come to the surface. And I think that, we have been trained by our, by what I call our external moral authorities, our parents, our teachers, our religious leaders, and then political leaders, media, so many influences, to be positively disposed towards the positive and negatively disposed towards the negative. Is that right? We like good things, we don't like bad things. And Baba comes along and says, you know what? That is a serious mistake you just made. You should not do that. So then we say, okay, then what? What should we do? He says, well, every little part of you, all the good bits, all the middle bits, and all the bad bits, they're all predestined in drama. So you have a golden bit, you have a silver bit, you have a copper bit, you have an iron bit, and that's that. And the symbol of that is the swastika. I think swastika, a highly dangerous symbol. You see, but which is the best thing, the swastika. Swastika means to know the self. That's the meaning of swastika. And the swastika is a rotating thing, so this is also a yantra. You see. And the swastika rotates around a point in the middle. And so even if you just take the swastika and just go from the middle to the edge, to the middle to the edge, you must keep it rotating, because time does not stand still. So Baba has also told us, you have to claim your right and your title. One of your titles of Swaman, title of your self-honor is you are Trikaldarshi. Trikaldarshi means that you know the past and present and the future. So on the swastika, anything which is that way is the past, anything this way is the future, and anything right here is the present. And how long does the present last? 1 second, right? Is that right? So one very wonderful practice that Daddy Janki gave me that you can also try, it's a really good one, is to be very, very aware about time. So you think of yourself, I'm a soul, and every second that passes, consciously let it go, be present for the next second, which lasts only 1 second, and then let that go. And try to divide time into seconds so that you let them go second by second by second by second. This is a really good practice. These are very simple things, like I the soul and cutting the tomato through this body. Simple practice. But this will give you good power of concentration, because you're in that practice, you're pulling back from the consciousness of the body, you see. And in this practice of second by second, letting go second by second, you're pulling back from the impact of time, because we are strongly affected by what just happened. It's 1 second ago, 2 seconds ago, a week ago, a year ago, a decade ago. It sits in your memory. And this yantra says, all memories of all time. There's a seat here if you like. All memories of all time are contained in your personal drama. So each and every one of us has a drama which is different from each and every other person's drama. Now, another thing Baba has said to us, which I find extremely interesting, is when you experience something, anything, where do you experience that? And what he has said is that all your experiences occur in your mind. So say, for example, you have a toothache. When you have a toothache, you will be aware of that particular tooth. When you don't have a toothache, you will not be particularly conscious about your teeth. It's only when it gives you pain that you become aware of it. But the thing is, you're not aware of your tooth in your tooth. You're aware of your tooth in your mind. You see. And so anything which is going on in your body that you're aware of it in your mind. Anything that's going on outside your body, you're aware of in your mind. So how do we know anything? It's by sense perception. Although science talks about objective reality, is that right? Objective reality is not objective at all. It's subjective. You see, because the self analyzes whatever it is and processes the information inside. So you have intellectual analysis, which is a mathematical thing, which has nothing to do with good, bad, or right or wrong. It's just it is or it isn't. Yes, no, 1, 2, 0, 1, binary system. But in your mind is how you feel about it, or what it means, the implications of your life. So why Baba teaches us about this is to minimize the obstacles in yoga. And Baba has said there will be obstacles in yoga, and he puts them there. If he finds that we don't have any, he'll put some in. You see, you probably find that there are people that you live with who are specially designed to mess up your meditation. You know? And trigger your weaknesses. Without them, you'd be just fine. And so it's very important to realize that Raj Yoga needs to be done in circumstances of the maximum adversity that is, endurable. Usually you think it's unendurable, but he thinks it's endurable. So if we don't have something to push against, we won't make effort. So Baba says, you won't remember me unless you're in pain or trouble or distress or something like this. And we must ask ourselves, what category are we in? Because it is mentioned in the Gita, there are 4 categories of people who are interested in the knowledge. And the largest category is the distressed, oppressed people. There's plenty of them. Then the next smaller category is people interested in money. Who are people interested in money? Now, why would people interested in money be interested in spirituality? In Christianity, for example, they say, money is the root of all evil. So if you're interested in money, it's not going to take you to God. And in India, they say money is Maya, right? So that's a bad thing. But he says, no, if you're interested in money, you'll need this information. Because if you know the knowledge of the laws of karma, you can make a fortune. So people who are interested in money need to come here. Okay? Then the next smallest category is curious people. Curious. What are these people doing? Let me go have a look. Let me check it out. They're curious. And people who are curious about spirituality will quite often use knowledge in a wrong way or for a wrong purpose, because they're just curious and you can do it all sorts of ways. Well, the tiniest category is the people who want truth at any cost. So I think we fit in that category, is that right? So we're the this is why there are not many BKs, because we're in that category. The ones who want truth at any cost, and it's very, very expensive. We tell people Raj Yoga is free. Not free at all. Extremely expensive. It'll cost you everything you've got and then some. Because he says, you are here for unlimited sannyas, unlimited renunciation. So now, if we want to have good yoga, we find that there are obstacles. And when we talk about yoga, we're not talking about when you're sitting down in front of Baba's portrait. But when we're talking about yoga, we're talking about how you are over 24 hours. So in 24 hours, you are to some extent a bit soul conscious here and there. To some extent, careful of your karma. to some extent churning some knowledge. It varies. There are moments where you're right there, and then there are moments when you're totally not there, and then there's somewhere in between. So your overall chart, Baba said today in the morning, if you want to have good yoga, you must check your chart. So your chart is, what preoccupies your mind? Where does your intellect go? That means your focus of attention. What's important? And there is this expression, swachintan. You know this one, swachintan? Thinking about the self. So if somebody has to think about the self, does that make you selfish? And usually it's told, don't be selfish. Don't think about yourself, think about other people, don't be selfish. So then God says, no, think about yourself. But then in what way? See? So He wants us to be absolutely focused on the self. And that's quite difficult because, will the real me please show itself? Yeah. Because we have all these roles that we play, none of which is the real me. None of which. These are just performances in the drama. Some that we're required, you have to go to work, you have to perform that thing. You have a relationship with your family, you have to perform mother, sister, daughter, father, son, whatever. It's performance. The actual real self that's behind all of those, very rarely do you spend time with that, yeah? And so it is said that you need solitude. Yogis like solitude. Because in solitude, you can make contact with yourself. What also happens is when you're in solitude, you make contact with your demons, your negative karma, your whatever it is that makes you crazy. And this is why people are all the time looking at their computers and the internet and singing songs and doing stuff that doesn't need to be done. Distractions. Because we get distracted, we like to be distracted from the point. So the one point is myself. And I think one of the reasons we get distracted, we don't want to be near to ourselves, is because we have a doubt that I'm not okay. And for as long as we have lived, there are going to be a few people who will point out what's wrong with us, right? You're too thin, too fat, too tall, too short, too much this, too much that, whatever it happens to be, but whatever it is, it's not okay. And I think also, especially people who are really interested in spirituality, are very critical of the self. Because I think that deity souls, well, by the time they get to the Iron Age, they end up as perfectionists. Would you say that? Perfectionist? I'm never going to make it to be perfect the way Baba wants me to be, right? And then all the other BKs are also quite imperfect. So you can find, you've got the third eye, you can find the most undetectable fault in any other BK. You see, and Baba says, do not look at the things that are visible, which is the faults. Look at the things that are invisible, whether in the self or in another BK or non-BK. Look at the invisible, because the soul itself is invisible, And we have this word in the Murli, embodiment. You can be an embodiment of peace. Well, I don't think a soul can be an embodiment of anything, because that's a body. So I was thinking, what can you be if you can't be an embodiment? What can you be? Flow, but flow is one thing, but I think you can be quintessence. Have you heard that word, quintessence? And quintessence means the 5 essences. And sometimes he says your soul has a mind and it has an intellect and it has samskaras. So if your mind, intellect and samskaras are not your soul, then what are you? He says these are subtle organs of the soul, and then your body, these are the gross organs for the soul. So then what's the soul? It's not a mind, you have a mind. You have an intellect. You have samskaras. Purity, peace, power, love, bliss. Is that? So if you are a little point of light made of those substances, it's very subtle to make yourself into that, you know. No personality, no, you know, good and bad and all that stuff, but everything is just whizzed into this drama, which you can expand and make it a 5,000-year big thing, or you can spin it into a small dot, because Baba has said drama is a dot. So we have to be able to be detached from all of these things that you experience in the mind. See, because what we have to do, the next bit of this retreat, what we have to do is to become the real self, where all of the good, bad and indifferent is just spun into a little dot. So, that's not easy, Raj Yoga, right? But it's not about whether you can succeed in doing that or not, but just to think about it. 5,000 years is quite long, but not too long. How long does it take to live? 24 hours is 24 hours, but how long does it take you to remember everything you did in a day? Maybe half an hour? More or less, ballpark. So if you can take 24 hours into half an hour, that's 1/48 of 5,000. 4,800. It's you can think about it. You know, Baba says if the cycle was millions of years, you couldn't think about it. The cycle is 5,000 years. You can think about it. How long does it take to think about 84 births in gold and silver, copper, iron age? I don't know. Baba says spin the cycle. I don't know if you've tried counting from 1 to 84 any time. 1 birth, 2 births, 3 births, 4 births, like that. And just, you know, try to see the change that takes place in the self, all the way from perfect to imperfect. And all of it is, I'm the same soul. The same soul is absolutely perfect. The same soul is absolutely imperfect. And Baba knows everything without, like we know things chronologically. You know what's happening today because you observe it, you experience it in your mind. You don't know what's happening tomorrow because you haven't experienced it yet. But then he says, well, you did experience it 5,000 years ago. So this yantra of 5,000 years is given to us especially because it allows us to let go of everything. So when Baba says you have to be an unlimited sannyasi, it means you have the possibility to let go. So what do we not want to let go of? Many things. Your relatives, your body, your culture. Right? Those are the main things. And the mantra that Baba gives us is forget your body, forget your bodily relations, forget your bodily religion, that means culture, and remember me alone. And that's not possible unless Baba is more interesting than all of them put together. Because we're business people, we don't just exchange something for nothing. So if we're going to give up our body, our bodily relations, and our bodily culture in exchange for Baba, then Baba has to be better than all of that. Right? Otherwise, why would we do it? We're not stupid. Right? So, what do you get from Baba? So you can write that down on your pink piece of paper. What do I get from Baba? And I think some of the main things that you get from Baba has to do with these titles of self-honor. You see, because the things that Baba gives us are not physical objects. You know, in devotion they say, God gave me my money, God gave me my child, God gave me my husband, God gave me all these things. Baba says, give up all those. And what does he give us that we don't give up? Swadarshana Chakradhari. You are a spinner of the cycle of self-knowledge. Everything that has ever been and ever will be is in your hand. You can let it go because it will never disappear. It's identically and eternally repeating, so you can let go. Right? So it's not that we have to let go of it and it'll disappear forever, but we have to let go of it knowing that nothing can get lost. No one can get lost. We do not have to be worried about losing anything. Right? Someone may take away your body, kill you, you lose your body that way. Or if some illness will take it, you lose it that way. Or if time is up, you lose it that way. But you'll get it back again in 5,000 years, so what's the problem? You get the same one. You get the same wardrobe. It's all fixed, destined. Nothing can be lost. No one can be lost. You see, so we have to think about it because we're so used to anything can get lost, anything can be destroyed. We get, so these attachments that we have, the way to undo them is this cycle knowledge. And then what do we get from Baba? Trikaldarshi, the three aspects of time. Doesn't matter how horrible anybody thinks you are, Baba thinks you're one of the top guys. So, don't matter what the other people think. Because we are in the first 900,000, right? Maybe we'll say no, in the first 16,000. There's 1 million BKs, more or less, give or take a few. This is a competition. right? So who are we competing against? Competing against the other VKs. So if you see somebody's defect, you slide down a bit, and they slide up. So that's better not to do that. Because it's a competition, you want to be number one, right? So it's a reality. And how much do we churn the knowledge? Because Baba has said very clearly, your status depends on how much you study, not on how many other people you look better than. How much you study. Let's churn, think, Study means, what is this? It's because it's very incorporeal. So, one of the things that you have, even though you will forget it, you have the knowledge. And so the trick is, you see, because in the Golden Age, it is said that you have the sanskaras of knowledge, but you don't have any knowledge. But you have sanskaras of knowledge. You have no consciousness of God, but you do have consciousness that you're a soul and you will reincarnate. And you're already karmatit, so no problem. So the only way for that to happen is to make the knowledge into a sanskar in the confluence age. So this process of making the knowledge into a sanskar, that's called spiritual effort. And my interpretation of the word spiritual effort, which is purusharat, right? Purusharat is effort. So purusharat, I say purush. Purush means a person. Normally they think purush means a man, but it actually just means a living being, a person, a soul, purush. And arat means, for the sake of. So anything you do for the sake of yourself, that is purusharat. You see. So remember I mentioned about swachintan. Think about the self. Everything you do, you must do it for the self. And yet we've had so much training, you must do for others. And Baba says, yes, you must do for others because that's charity, that's service. But there's a difference between doing for others what they need as opposed to doing for others what they want. So when you're doing for others, it's very, very good to think, okay, what is the very best thing that could be done for this person? And they may well say, no, I don't want that, I want some other thing. But you say, no, I'm not going to give you some other thing, I'm going to give you this. It could be they need company. It could be they need stimulation. It could be they need reassurance. It could be they need a push. So that's called the power of discrimination. You need to discern what does the soul really need. You see, because any charity that's done because of need is much, much higher charity than a charity that's done just because you could do it or somebody wants it or whatever. It's, being able to fulfill a need is very high charity. And then you also have to look for what do I need to do for me? Because somebody else may say you need to do this, that, and the other, but it may be that they haven't got it right, and there is something better that you can do for you. So the best thing that you can do for yourself is grow your stage, isn't it? Anything you do which advances your stage, you're not going to lose out. It's going to be beneficial. And all the troubles that we get is all ultimately designed to force us to increase our stage, because that's the only way we can handle it. And we try every other possible thing for as long as possible until nothing works, then we remember to go and build our stage. But we could do that first instead of last, and then we save time. So this thing about sanskaras is really in the way, and I have a lot of time discussing with Nagla sanskaras. What is sanskaras? What's the difference between sanskaras and virtues? Because virtues come from Baba, right? Baba is the ocean of virtues. He gives us lots of different characteristics, virtues, qualities, whatever. But sanskaras come from your experience in life, come from people. So, for example, it is said in India that by somebody's sanskaras you can tell what kind of family they brought up in, right? So if they're well behaved, not well behaved, stuff like that. Sanskaras. So Baba is actually teaching us all kinds of good sanskaras, so that's good. But we also import a lot of other sanskaras that we figure they're fine. And I think as time goes by, we begin to realize that they're also part of what we have to renounce. We have many sanskaras that we think are quite good, but ultimately they're not needed in the golden age. We don't need that. So I think it's very good to focus on this, what have I received from Baba? What is Baba giving us? And these are all these non-tangible things. Some awareness he gives us, some blessings he gives us, a sense of identity he gives us, so that we can hold ourselves in that, around each other, inspire each other through doing that, and move forward. So I will stop talking now, and I would like you to just spend a bit of time with your paper and just think about some of these questions. What has Baba given me? What is really my identity? What is my swaman? What is my self-honor? Who am I after all? Because such work of identifying these things, that is yoga. To spend time with that and write it down. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
It's very nice to talk to each other, isn't it? Great. So, I'm not going to ask you to share what all your obstacles are, because that's all private, right? But we have a few minutes. We're going to offer Bog together soon. But the thought was some of you might have some questions, comments, or anything that you would like to say. Or if you want me to say something that I didn't already say, or clarify something, this is a good time for it, yeah? So, did you enjoy your chit-chat?
Yes. And I really enjoyed listening to you.
Thank you.
You're a teacher of phenomenal depth.
Thank you. Actually, all of us, once you get stimulated, the depth comes, doesn't it? The word Maryada Purushottam. You want to know about that? Well, it's very... How does Maryada Purushottam relate to Dharma? Fabulous questions. You know, the definition of a deity, the full on, is, Sola Kala Sampuran, complete with 16 celestial degrees. And that means like the full moon, so you have full light. It's not, I don't think of it as 16 arts, but you have full light, like the full moon. Sola Kala Sampuran. And then Sampuran Nirvikara, you don't have any vices. That means there's no dark corners in you. Because your vices are simply, that you don't have quite enough power. And so you go into vices. I don't know if you've checked this out, but you don't have any vices at all until you're a bit weak or a bit tired. Then they all come out. Or if you're sick, then they will come out. Otherwise, you're very nice, virtuous. Okay? So that means we need to have the power. And then, of course, Maryada Purushottam, Maryadas are boundaries. And so they're not codes of conduct or principles or any of that business. They're lines. You see, so Sita was told, you stay in this line and then Ravan won't get you. So what makes us perform any wrong actions is if we're weak. So the main line is, don't allow yourself to get weak or tired. Make sure that you've got enough energy to operate according to who you are. Sometimes Baba says, do not come down from your seat of self-respect. So when you were writing about your self-honor, what are the things that you have got from Baba, don't come down from that. That's really the key. And very often when a person is in their self-respect, someone will accuse them of being arrogant. Right? And you need to have the power of discrimination to discern that this person is just trying to get you to get off your seat of self-respect, because when you're on your seat of self-respect, you are invincible and invulnerable. But when you come down from that, you become ordinary, and so then they can do something to you. This is something good to know. You see, so stay in your consciousness of who you are. I am Baba's child, and if anybody has a problem with that, it's basically too bad. And I am Raj Yogi. If you don't like that, that's also too bad. This is who I am, and this is what I am. So that's your Swaman, your is-it. Is-it? Let's remember that. And I am child of Shiva, Ganesh, not less. So the difficulty comes when you say, okay, humility is needed. So very often people think that humility is the same thing as obsequiousness. Have you heard this word, obsequiousness?
Yes.
And it's where you really put yourself down way too far and then put the other person up way too much. That's not humility. So what is humility? To me, humility is where somebody, Baba had said, if you do have arrogance, it means when somebody says something, you will feel disrespected. So humility is when you don't feel disrespected when somebody doesn't quite get who you are. You're okay with it. It's okay. It doesn't matter. If you can't see me just because you're blind, it's not you. my problem or your problem. It's just the way it is. It's okay. Something more like that. So to be Maryada Purushottam, you have to set your boundaries. And that means that you will not go too far in terms of, like, you will not be too familiar with someone, you will not impose yourself on someone, you will not allow someone to impose themselves on you. You will be cooperative up to a point where they're taking advantage of you, then there's a line, sorry, no deal. You can't take advantage of me, that is not allowed. Daddy Yankee gave me a very interesting piece of information one time. You know, she often tells stories, she used to. And one of them was that one of her uncles wanted to prevent her from coming to Baba, and started to do all sorts of things to get in the way of it. And she said to him one day, "Tumhara nahi khati hu." So you don't have any rights to limit me, because you are not my source of income. I do not eat from you. You know, so whoever you take food from, they have rights over you. Or if they are providing you your shelter and this and that and the other. So whoever is your provider, they have right to tell you do this, don't do that. But if they're not your provider, then in Shanti, you don't have any rights over me. And this is why Baba says, you know, either you're in the center, you're sustained by Baba, or you're a trustee, and you use your money the way that Baba would want you to use it, you see. And so you are, Baba is your dhani. Dhani means the provider, right? So you do what he says, not what anybody else says. This is also Maryada. And then you may have Maryadas about greed. You know, I mean, there was one sister who got it all wrong. And she was like skinny, more skinny than a skeleton. You can imagine that. And she thought she was greedy for food, so she wouldn't eat. Eventually she died, you can imagine. But and that's some sort of psychosis, you know, where you just do not get it right. And this is why Baba says sometimes that you may get an idea, an interpretation of Gyan, which is totally wrong. So it's a good idea to verify. So you verify with your center in charge, or with your didis and daddies, or with Baba, or whoever seems to have got it right. You verify. But then you have to be willing to adjust yourself if they say, you know, no, I'm sorry, you're not greedy. If you don't eat, you're going to die. You say, no, I'm greedy, I've got to control. No, that's not right. So you have to understand what you need and differentiate between need and greed. If you're an IT person, you need a proper computer. If you have a useless tool, that's not smart. So I do believe in having good tools. You know, what do people do with the knives in the kitchen? They use them as screwdrivers. Better put a screwdriver in the kitchen. You have to tighten the pots every so often. You need a Phillips and a flathead screwdriver in the kitchen, in every kitchen. Otherwise you're going to wreck your knives. Oh, no, I don't need a screwdriver. You do need a screwdriver. Yeah? So, I think it's, you know, there's some basic common sense in it. And your space. You need your space. You need not to be 24/7 doing physical service, because then you compromise your study and your, you know, your meditation and everything. And Daddy Yankee always used to tell us, keep this period from 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. for your spiritual practice, because you do that work, karobar, in the rest of the day, but don't do karobar before the murli, because you'll eat into your spiritual time, and that's not a good idea. And you have to do 4 a.m. meditation, so calculate what time you should go to bed. Because if you stay up too late doing this or that, Goti service and so on, and you compromise your Amrit Vela, then that service is not service. Or if you're too, disturb other people in a service project, Baba said very clearly, this is not service, this is outside Maryada. So it's all to do with having right balance in connection with what should happen in order for things to move forward well. The subtle stage. Yeah. It's interesting, in today's Murli, Baba said you will leave your body, you will go to the subtle regions, and you will serve with your karmatik stage. Did you notice that? Towards the end of the Murli. And so I thought that was very interesting. Daddy had told us that very often she gets pulled into the angelic form because Baba is getting some service done through her subtle form. And people would experience her in dreams, or she protected them from something like this. So, it's an important part of our practice to cultivate this subtle stage so that it can be useful. And I think also this is why, everybody's different. Some people are more into yoga, some people are more into Gyan, some people are more into Dharna, some people are more into being active servers, and there's all different things. So if you make your stage, making your stage, I think, is very much connected with the whole idea of the subtlety, the subtle form. And, now that Bab Dada is not hardly meeting us through Dadi Gulzar, this is also a very important aspect. So your subtle stage is your angelic form, and when you are in really good yoga, and you can keep that going for a good amount of time, it does work. I remember one time I was just starting in BK life, very new BK, and I went to San Francisco for service, and I was alone. And there was no contacts, no money, nothing to do, and it was raining for a long time. So I thought, what shall I do? What's the best thing to do? And I thought, well, the BK started with 14 years of tapasya. So I will do 14 hours meditation every day for 3 months. I just thought of it like that. So I said, okay, we'll do that. And I'll tape, a good carpet, a good picture of Baba. And so I meditated like that for 3 months. It was not easy, but that's what I decided to do. And then after that came all these people who became Brahmins, who were still the pillars of California service. And so I thought, this is a really important thing to do. And nowadays we've got computers, and we've got cell phones, and we've got all of these ways to do service physically. And we do all these things, but the number of Brahmins isn't much intensifying or coming. It's good to pull people with the Avyat form or inspire people. There are people that we cannot reach, you know, but they feel it if there's good yoga going on. You remember at the end of the last season, I think it was the end of last season, Baba said, I'm not coming, you guys are not meditating. And then everybody said, oh, I'll meditate, we'll meditate. So they meditated for 24 hours. He still didn't come. He said, that doesn't count. But you could really feel the atmosphere when all the BKs decided to meditate, you know, properly. And the other experience I have with that, which is I think also very interesting, is when I was doing the 7-day course. I took the 7-day course with Jayantiben. And so I would come from work and we would sit down on this little room on the floor and she would tell me the knowledge. And in the next door room, Daddy was in heavy duty tapasya. And I could really feel it, you know, because from my background, coming into a little place and seeing, you know, this Vishnu and this Ravan, and it was like, whoa, what is this? It was not what I was used to. So the physicals were not very corresponding to me, but the vibrations were so good that I said, I don't care about the physicals, I want this vibration. And I think that it's likely to be true for a lot of people, that they will trust the vibration. And the question of trust is a big one nowadays. You don't know who to trust. There's so many people that look good, sound good, and in the end they're not good at all. But, you know, you will trust the feel, the vibration. Of course, Baba has said you'll be doing meditation at the end because there'll be just everything will be blown up. But to individually and collectively have that is, I think, what Baba really wants. Sometimes he says, do service with your face, do service through your behavior, do service through your stage, and people do feel that, you know. Because if we just go as a big BK logo, walking lighthouse, they may or may not relate to that. But people will say, you know, there's something about you that, you know, we can trust. And, you know, they watch you. You probably feel this, you know, at work and everything. People watch you for years together. And then they say, yeah, whatever it is you're doing, I want that. And whatever it is you've got, I want that. So this, much more than us telling things or showing pictures, I think it really resonates with people. And it's good for us to intensify that. You know, a time will come, Baba has said, there'll be no murlis, no white saris, no badges, no nothing. I remember in the 70s he was giving all these type of murlis, which you never see anymore, but I remember. And, you know, he has said at the end all wars will be religious wars, so if you dress up like one religion as opposed to another religion, you will be toast. Just incognito and vibrating, you know, when everything is really bad. Because Baba has said the destruction cannot happen until every soul on earth requests it. So it has to be pretty bad for that. So at the moment there's still plenty of people who say, no, we're fine. You know. The other people may be in trouble, but I'm not in trouble. But when every soul on earth says, no, do it, you know, let's go. That's very severe, you see. And he said, you know, today even you have to be Mahavir, Mahavirni. to be able to manage these things, because climate change, civil unrest, no petrochemicals, no medicine, how would you manage your stage? So, the subtle stage. And Baba has also said that people will actually have visions of the angelic form of the BKs, which will give them hope, comfort, relief, something like this, you see. And of course, we have to grow it, cultivate it, make it happen. So let us offer both together. Huh? Thank you very much for your kind attention. Shanti.
Thank you for